Hi, everybody. I am Gene Sapikov, columnist for the Charleston Post and Courier. I've been the sports columnist there for, 35 years or so. And we welcome you to this great program and thank Mark Kingston and the whole University of South Carolina Athletic Department for making this happen. To my right here is David Kloniger. He's been a Gamecock beat reporter for 20 years. We at the Post and Courier think he is the best beat reporter in the SEC, at least. He covers many sports, and not only is his work available in print and online at postandcourier.com, but David has an extremely popular and growing newsletter called Gamecocks Now. Some cards there are on your seats and can tell you a little bit about that. And we'll be mentioning that a little bit more as the program goes along. But for now, I am going to turn this over for David, and he and I are going to ask Coach Kingston a few questions.
Appreciate that, Gene. Appreciate all you guys for coming out. As we all know, it's about to be baseball season, and in South Carolina, that means a whole lot of excitement. Let's get right into it. Mark Kingston, fifth year at the helm of USC baseball. I know you've been through a lot of opening days, Mark, but still, how excited do you still get when it's time to fill out that first lineup card?
Yeah, I love opening day. As most people know, I think at this point, my whole life has been baseball. I mean, from the time I was this tall, baseball has always been so important to me. And I remember as a little kid how great opening day was. And I remember spring training. Even opening day of spring training used to be a big deal to me growing up. Then you go to college and you play, and opening day is a special thing. And I remember my first game as a freshman in college. Then you get into pro baseball, and that was always a really special time because you'd spend 6 weeks in spring training out in Arizona, and you're just waiting to get your assignment to see, okay, where am I gonna be sent? A ball, rookie ball, double A. You just never know. And it's one town, maybe, when I was with the Cubs, you could be sent to Peoria, Illinois, or you could be sent to Orlando, Florida. And that was a big difference. And so by the end of spring training, you'd figure out where you're going to be sent. And so that was always an exciting time. And opening day, when I think of opening day, I think of the bunting, the red, white, and blue bunting, and how special that is. It comes out for opening day, and it comes out for the playoffs, both special times. And so everybody is always eagerly anticipating opening day. Everybody thinks they're going to be the national champions, and you haven't had any adversity yet. So it's a great time of the year. And I've always, it's baseball special to me, and opening day is one of the special parts of it.
Yeah, not quite a Disneyland in Peoria, Illinois, right?
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Obviously, you've been around these guys for 6 full weeks, if not more, in the fall, and now these 3 weeks going in the preseason. So you've seen a lot more than any of us. If you could pick just a few words to describe this year's team, what would you say?
Well, I think we'll be more balanced offensively, obviously, last year. And I get asked this question a lot. What is our offensive philosophy? People think, well, we want to hit a lot of homers, strike out a lot, and not score more than 5 runs a game. That's not, believe it or not, that's not our philosophy. Our philosophy is to have a balanced offense between speed and power, to be balanced between left-handed and right-handed, to be able to play the small game if necessary, to be able to drive the ball in the gaps if necessary. And I think we're going to be closer to that this year. Obviously, every year you're bound by what kind of personnel you have and what type of players do you have. I like to tell a story a lot that Don Shula, who's my favorite coach of all time, went to the Super Bowl with Bob Greasy and 3 running backs in the backfield, and they ran the ball 50 times a game. And then he drafted Dan Marino, and they threw the ball 50 times a game. So I think most coaches will tell you that we're going to try to win the game. However, our team is best built to win the game. And so through recruiting, you try to get to that point where you have the perfect balance of left, right, speed, power, all those things. And I think we're getting closer to that. I think as I look at lineups we could potentially put out there this year, I see more left-handed hitters that will be available. I see more speed available. I see more speed in the outfield available for us if we think that's the best way to win. And the key thing for us is we know in Founders Park, if the wind is blowing out, anybody in that lineup can hit a homer. And when the wind is blowing in, when it's a little colder, it's hard for Wes Clark to hit a home run on that night. So it's nice to have a balance and have more than one way to try to win a game. So I think as I look at this year's team, I think we'll have more options to score runs. Obviously, they've got to prove it. We'll find out starting on Friday. But I think that's what we're looking at. From a pitching standpoint, last year we were one of the top power pitching staffs in the country. I think our average fastball velocity last year was in the top 2 in the country. I don't think we'll be that this year. We lost, as you know, we lost a lot of those power arms. So the average fastball last year was probably in that 94 range. I think this year it'll be more in that 92 range. Now Will Sanders will still get it up there 96, and when Bosnick gets back, he'll be in that range. But I think we'll be more guys that have to throw a little bit more off-speed pitches, maybe throw some more change-ups to make the 92 fastball look like a 95-mile-an-hour fastball. But I see a group that is ready to go win. We've spent a lot of time this year trying to build really good continuity and just the kind of culture we all want to have. Everybody talks about that all the time, and I think Coach Beamer has done a really good job kind of role modeling to everybody how important a really good positive culture can be. And we're trying to continue. We've always tried to do that, but I think it's just what he did with that team this year just further shows how important that can be. So you may have seen we had the team over to my house this weekend for the Super Bowl, and so we did an event, a paintball event in the fall with the team, and the guys actually last night had a dinner at a local Japanese steakhouse where just the players all went as a team just for bonding. And so I think it's a team that it has a chance to do some good things. Obviously, going into the season, some people think we can be good. Some people are waiting and seeing. And so I think that's fair based on the number of new players we have this year. But I think when all is said and done, I think we'll be right there.
Coach Kingston, the Gamecock fan support is just, famous, the loyalty. And I think one of the things they appreciate, and especially the season ticket holders, is, wow, you're not afraid of a tough non-conference schedule. What are you thinking?
Sometimes I wish I was.
I was going to say, what are you thinking last year, kind of at the last minute, you schedule Texas in Austin. Now you've got a pretty darn good Texas team, the Longhorns coming to Columbia. Plus, you always play your in-state rival Clemson. And, Xavier's better than people think. What's your philosophy of non-conference scheduling?
Well, last year put us in a situation where we had the opportunity to play Texas, a home and home. So I just thought it was too good to turn down. And we went out to Austin last year, and the series did not go how we wanted. But in the grand scheme of things, it really helped our RPI. And I think it put us over the top to host a regional last year. And so sometimes you have to balance how many games do you want to win versus what's that going to do to our RPI. At the end of the day, the NCAA selection committee is looking at RPI much more than overall wins. So we could have not scheduled them and won 3 more games against another opponent. And we could have scheduled less opponents outside and we could have easily got to 40 wins last year. We were more in the mid-30s because of that schedule. But the RPI put us in a position to host a regional. So at the end of the day, the best way to get to Omaha is to host a regional. Give yourself that chance. And so we'll always try to put together a schedule that will give us the opportunity that if we win enough games, it'll be right there at the top in the country and have the RPI where it needs to be.
Mark, you already mentioned, pitching is going to be a big part of every team. Coming into this season, I was looking at it thinking, well, while the other newcomers get there, they at least have Julian Bosnick, Will Sanders, your 1 and 2 guys. That's going to get you through a lot of weekends. But now we know Julian's going to miss some time. Could you update us on his health and when he can expect to return? Yeah,
we're hoping it's just a couple weeks. He's a couple weeks into this process, a very minor flexor strain. So we shut him down this fall just to make sure that he would be in good health. And so just he's getting back on that throwing program and just had a very minor setback, but we don't anticipate it being anything long term. And so again, it's much more important to have him ready and available at the end of the year than the beginning.
And you did put out the pitching rotation for the first weekend today. Will Sanders gets the ball first, freshman All-SEC last year. Then James Hicks, a newcomer to the team. And then Josiah Seitler, a guy who's been around playing a variety of roles. If you could just talk about Hicks and Seitler as they fill in that Saturday and Sunday roles.
Yeah, Hicks is a junior college transfer. And as you remember, we've had some really good success of late with some right-handed junior college pitchers. Reed Morgan was really good for us. Thomas Farr was really good for us. Brandon Jordan was really good for us. So this kid's right in line with those guys. Fastball will be 91, 93 with the kind of movement that Reed Morgan had when he was here. Throw a really good changeup and a good slider. So he's a competitor, very athletic, and when he pitches, if he's on, it'll be quick games because he gets a lot of quick outs. The hitters beat the ball on the ground a lot against him, and so I think our infield defense is going to be much better than it was last year. So I think when he's on the mound, it'll be a really good matchup. And then Seidler continues to progress this year as a pitcher. So far this spring, he's been in that 90 to 92 range with good command, good changeup. Breaking ball is good enough to keep him off balance, and we know he's a competitor and he can field his position. So until Bosnick is back, Seidler will probably fill that third spot, and then when Bosnick's back, we'll figure it out from there.
Coach, you talked about your minor league baseball days, going to Peoria and Orlando and places like that. I talked to one of your minor league managers today.
Oh, boy.
And I asked, give me a scouting report on Mark Kingston.
You have to tell me who it was so I can know what to expect.
That's right. Well, first I'm going to tell you what he said, and then you're going to guess who it was. Okay. He said, very organized, student of the game, competitive as bleep. Who do you think that might have been?
Every damn one.
That's right. How about Dave Tremblay of the Cubs?
Awesome. That's great. How do you know Dave Tremblay?
Dave Tremblay managed in Charleston for a few years, and I kept in touch with him. Dave Tremblay, a minor league manager, went on to be the manager of the Baltimore Orioles in the big leagues, and is just a fine teacher. Helped with the Braves in the minor leagues, teaching a lot of these guys that were on the World Series team. But
well, that's great. Thank you.
But Coach, he had nothing but good things to say about you, and I wonder, what was that experience like being a minor league player, and how did that shape you as a coach?
I mean, it was huge. As I mentioned, growing up, my whole dream as a kid was to be a professional baseball player someday. And so I had been drafted out of high school by the New York Yankees, but knew I wanted to get a college education to fall back on, just like I tell all of our recruits now. Pro ball is great, but you better have a backup plan. And luckily, I had good guidance coming out of high school that I should go to college first and tell the Yankees, thanks, but I'll see you in a few years. And then after college, I was drafted again by the Brewers, the Milwaukee Brewers, and that started my pro career. I played with the Brewers and the Cubs, and I look back very fondly on it. A lot of people talk about how hard the minor leagues were, and you don't get paid much. I think we made about $900 a month, and you don't get paid during spring training, and you don't get paid during the off season. So we played in April, May, June, July, August, a little bit of September. So we were making $6,000 a year. That was our salary as a minor league baseball player. And so we all had to work in the off season. A lot of us lived with our parents in the off season, and so it was tough, but I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world because of the friendships I made, because of the opportunity to see your own face on baseball cards and have kids look up to you in these minor league stadiums and want your autograph. To me, I was living a dream, and I was going to play as long as they let me play. And then finally, at the age of 27, the Cubs called me in on the last day of spring training and said, your services are no longer needed. We don't think you're going to help us break the curse. We're going to save that for Chris Bryant someday and Anthony Rizzo. So I was not part of breaking the Cubs curse. But it was a great 5 years playing pro baseball, and many lessons to this day I still use and pass along. And I think it helps us in recruiting when I can tell kids, hey, we're going to help you get to pro ball someday, because I was there. I lived it. I know what it's going to take. I know how you need to be prepared. I think it helps us in recruiting. I think it helps prepare our team with what we do in practice every day. And so, it was a dream come true. I happened to meet my wife while I was a professional player. You know, if I had been an insurance salesman at that point, I don't know if she would have taken that first date. I don't know. So baseball has been so important to me, and the fact that I was able to play pro baseball was a dream come true. Even I didn't quite make it to the big leagues, but the fact that I got that opportunity was a dream come true.
Before we go on, Coach, I just want to ask David Kloniger to elaborate a little on your Gamecocks Now newsletter.
Oh, sure. I appreciate that, Gene. And for Mark, too, we steal a little bit minutes of your time. But we launched a Gamecocks Now newsletter back before last football season. And basically, it's just kind of me spitballing what's going on in USC athletics from day to day. You might get 4 or 5 updates a week. We've got a 2-week free trial going on right now. Just go to our webpage at postandcourier.com, and you can sign up for it. And obviously, now is the time to sign up for it, whether it's the trial or whether you want to keep subscribing to it, because these 6 weeks are the busiest time for me, because we have baseball starting. We have the other spring sports like softball, track and field, swimming, and diving going on. We have spring football starting up in a month. Basketball, both of them are getting toward their end, but they have their most important parts of the season coming up this month. So You can contact me directly on there, whether or not you sign up. If you need a question asked about what's going on at USC, I'll be happy to answer it. So appreciate that plug, Gene. And Mark, you can sign up too. I might even comp you a subscription if you want.
Only if you're not second-guessing everything I do.
Hey, man, I told you
I
not
know,
to throw
I know that
to
sells print, but come on.
Just getting to this year's team, Mark, I think a lot of people will get out there Friday. They'll look at the first lineup and they'll say, wow, there's a lot of new guys in there. And I've answered this question throughout fall. I said, now listen, new doesn't mean bad. It just means they've got to get in there and show, but they've got the talent in there. I've been to fall practice, been to spring practice, and seen them. So of those newcomers, I'm sure there might be 5 or 6 freshmen or JUCOs or transfer guys that start in your lineup. Could you just talk about a few of those guys who are going to make a major impact to you that are just on the team this year?
Yeah, well, we were talking before we started about the projected lineup, and I won't give you all the secrets, but I'll give you guys a little bit of preview because I appreciate you guys coming out here tonight. Just keep it between us. As we say in the locker room, what you hear here, let it stay here. So I'll give you guys, because I appreciate you being out here tonight. Colin Burgess will probably open the year again on Friday night as our starting catcher, but he is being pushed by a freshman named Talmadge LaCroix, really good player, probably every bit as good a hitter, if not better than Colin, and is really coming on as a defensive catcher too. Colin is probably one of the better defensive catchers in the SEC. He's throwing really well. He's playing defense as well as he ever has. He's blocking really well. He's receiving. He's throwing really well. And the bat is what it is. He's probably a 250 to 260 hitter, which is very solid for a catcher. But Talmadge LaCroix might provide even more offense than that as he continues to get older. So really excited about him. First base, you're probably looking at Josiah Seitler on Friday. He one of my favorites. He's a kid that's just come so far over the course of his career. He's a big target over there. I was telling Dave, kind of looks like Justin Smoke, a poor man's Justin Smoke over there. He's 6'4", he's left-handed. He's come a long way in terms of his defense at first base, so he makes for a really great target over there. Braylon Wimmer will be at second base again, and Braylon has taken another really good step in his development defensively, offensively. Coach Kaye has done a really nice job with his swing and cleaning it up, and that's we can talk about that in a little bit, but Coach Kaye has had a really nice impact in terms of the running game for us. The stealing bases and the running game is something that I wouldn't consider myself an expert in baseball, but Coach Kaye is, and so he's been really able to help our guys in that regard. So I think you'll see more stolen bases as a result. Shortstop is going to be Michael Braswell, who I think you guys are going to really enjoy watching play. Very smooth, athletic, plays with a very high level of confidence for a freshman. He was a high school All-American. He could have gone anywhere in the country, and he decided to be a Gamecock. So I think you're going to really enjoy watching him, and there's a chance he'll hit the 2-hole on Friday night because he's been a really tough out all spring against our pitchers. Kevin Madden is who you'll see at third base on Friday night. Transfer portal guy from Virginia Tech, lifetime 315 hitter. And when you watch him throw the ball across the infield, it's lightning. It's really fun to watch. And so he'll be a really above average defender over there at third, along with being a lifetime 315 hitter. So I think that's a really nice acquisition for us. Andrew Eister, again, you guys know this, believe it or not, this is his 4th year with us. And Andrew's close to a lifetime 300 hitter. He's a tiger killer, as we all know and appreciate. So he'll be out there in right field. Center field could be a couple different guys. I think you'll probably see Matt Hogan out there in the first game. Left-handed hitter, has big-time power. Hit a home run the other day that looked like he was going to cross the street. And so he's got a chance to really help us. He's a 6'8" runner. He'll play a solid center field. And again, he's that left-handed bat that we've so sorely missed in the past. And then left field will be Brent Belk, a left-handed hitter from Missouri, a lifetime 318 hitter. So again, another guy really tough to strike out. Him and Madden, the 2 transfer kids that will be in the lineup, along with Hogan, had very low strikeouts, which was something we placed a premium on after last year. So to get 2 veteran guys in our lineup with low strikeouts. They're 315 lifetime hitters. It's going to be a really nice addition to our lineup. So, and then the DH could be, we've got literally 5 freshman hitters that are all going to be capable of playing for us at a very high level. It's just a matter of which one do we pick. Ceno is a kid that kind of has been under the radar for us for the last couple of years, but he's a really good left-handed hitter, and he just hits. He's not the prettiest guy all the time. He's not the fastest guy, but he gives you really good professional at-bats. And again, tough to strike out, but he can run the ball out of the ballpark. And so, again, just another left-handed option. I anticipate us being able to put at least 4 lefties in our lineup, which last year it was usually 2. And so to be able to double up on lefties, and there'll be days we could put 5 or 6 in there if we really wanted to. So that's kind of what you're looking at. And again, I think if you go position by position, I think, if you've seen Moneyball, how many people here have seen the movie Moneyball? Pretty good movie. You remember at the beginning they were talking about how are we going to replace Giambi and Johnny Damon. Well, people are saying, how are you going to replace Wes Clark and Brady Allen, right? Well, you don't replace 2 for 2. You replace, I think, at least 7 of those spots will be better than they were last year. And then that, as an aggregate, will kind of be a better offense. That's my hope anyway going into Friday. So, and again, I think there are a lot of proven guys, but a lot of very talented young freshmen that will do well when they get their opportunities. And so I look forward to seeing what it looks like on Friday.
Couple questions right there, Mark. You mentioned Brant Belkin left, Seitler at first. What happens on the day that Seitler's going to pitch?
When Seitler pitches on Sunday, Belk will come in to play first base. One of those freshmen I talked about will probably go out to left field. It could be Thad Ector. It could be Carson Horning. It could be Elijah Lambros, who could slide to center field, and Hogan could slide to left. There's a couple different options that we'll see how the first couple days go to decide what we do on Sunday. But there's a lot of good young athletes that are just chomping at the bit to get in there when we do make a couple moves.
And let's get it out of the way. Talmadge LaCroix, really good-looking prospect. Go ahead and tell the folks about his family tree. Let's just get it out of the way.
Well, there you may note if you – all right. Well, I won't say anything that gets me in trouble, but let's just say he's on the good side. He was the first one in his family to decide to be on the good side.
We remember Madden.
Yeah.
And Bradley.
That's right. That's right. They have a good bond, those two. Well, here's the deal. Everybody wants to know that story too, right? How in the world did my daughter go to Clemson? I'll tell you why. Because, well, if South Carolina would have had her major, for those that don't know, my daughter has been into horses since her 7th birthday when we got her a pony in the backyard to ride. She's been riding horses. She's a barrel racer. It's her whole life. And so she wants to go into equine science. No, don't look at me like that back there. Not equestrian. Not equestrian. There's a big difference. One side wears the fancy hats and all that, and the other kind, they put the boots and the cowboy hat on, and that's what she is. That's what she is. So she's an animal sciences major because she wants to raise horses for the rest of her life, and we did not have that major. If she was a baseball player, she'd be with the Gamecocks. I promise you that. And she's not afraid. And she's not afraid to wear Gamecock gear up north. I can tell you that. Oh yeah. She's not scared.
Coach Kingston, what would you say, in your opinion right now, do you feel like is your deepest position, and what area of the team do you kind of have the greatest concern right now?
Deepest position. Well, I would say the young hitters overall. A lot of them deserve to play and may not get to play right out of the gate just because we have an Eister back and a Seitler back and a Wimmer back and those guys. So I would say just in terms of depth of hitters that we can look at, I would say is the biggest thing. Our bullpen, obviously, I think we need guys to step up in the bullpen, whether it's new guys that we've brought in or guys that have had moderate success so far in their careers and need to take that next step. I'll use Danny Lloyd, excuse me. Danny Latham is one of my former players from another school that's now coaching. Danny Lloyd was a guy that was having moderate success in his career, and then last year the light really went on, and he became dominant for us and went off to pro ball. And Andrew Peters is another example of that. Just was kind of plugging along and not really doing much, and then the light went on. So we need some guys in our bullpen this year, whether it's the Sweats, the Tringalis, those kind of guys, that the light goes on for them so that they have the kind of years that Danny Lloyd had last year at Andrew Peters.
Mark did want to talk to you about Andrew Eister because he's been here forever, and it just seems like that number 11's etched out there in the grass.
And he has the best walk-up song as it relates to his name, right?
That's his now. He's going to have to call Foreigner and say, that's mine, But what does it mean for you to have a guy like that, knowing that it's instant leadership, instant offense, a guy that you don't have to get on because he knows what he's doing?
Yeah, it's great to have those guys that have been in the program a long time, guys that know your expectations. They can kind of, it gets exhausting as a head coach if you're always the one correcting the players and here's how we do it and don't do that. When you have guys in your locker room that are willing to do that and have the platform to do that because the players respect the kind of player they are, how they handle their business. Andrew Eister is one of those guys. And so he's one of our leaders. He's not afraid to correct the young guys. He's a great role model for them in terms of how he works and tries to be the best player he can. So it's really important to have guys like that. And it's great to have him back from a production standpoint because he'll be one of our best hitters, but it's also good off the field that he's a good role model for our young guys.
And you mentioned, not only the newcomers on the field, but on your coaching staff. Chad Callie, that's like Yippee Callie. He's the new hitting coach. You have Justin Parker into the pitcher, and, of course, Scott Wingo has come back to the family. So talk about all three of those guys, what they're bringing to your coaching staff, and is it a challenge to work that many newcomers onto your staff?
Not really, believe it or not, because through the hiring process, you get to know guys and you pick guys that you think will really fit into the culture of South Carolina baseball. And these guys are all extremely hardworking, just like our staff was last year. We had a good staff last year, and now we have, I think, a great staff too. So Chad Callie was, just for you guys to know, he was a long time at Southern Miss, and Southern Miss was a mid-major school that broke through and went to Omaha when he was the recruiter and hitting coach. Then he was hired by Texas A&M. Unfortunately for him, the head coach at Texas A&M was towards the end of his career and was let go last year, which, fortunate for us, opened him up for an opportunity to come here. So he works with our hitters, works with our infielders, again, base running, and so he's had a really nice impact on our guys. Justin Parker, our pitching coach, came from the University of Indiana, and he's been a pitching coach, I believe it's 7 years now, and has had a top 10 ERA in the country in 4 or 5 of those years. Last year, they were third in the country in ERA. So very intelligent guy, very bright, very forward-thinking, but also how can I put this? A good guy to have a beer with too, off the field. So, just a really good mix of a guy you can hang out with, but the players really like him, and he's as sharp as it gets. And then I don't think I need to describe Scott Wingo to the people in this room. Really happy to have Scott back.
A smile comes on everybody's
face. Yeah, and that it was a great opportunity to bring Scott back here, and he'll be our third base coach. So I anticipate the level of booing to go down maybe just a little bit since we're putting him out there.
You want to put him out there that close to Clemson when they come to town?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. So he'll be out there coaching third base. He assists with our infielders, outfielders, hitters, and just overall attitude. I say half the time he can be an attitude coach for our guys because some of his pre-practice speeches or post-practice speeches are, they're not the most eloquent, but they're emotional. They're emotional, and the guys love them. And so it's been a great ad for our staff.
Have you figured out what crunk is?
Yes.
All right. We'll leave it at that.
Coach Kingston, since the season opener in 2021, the SEC got a lot tougher, if not for this next season, certainly for down the line. How did you feel about the addition of Texas and Oklahoma, not just as a non-conference opponent here and there, but as permanently in the SEC? Are there pluses and minuses to that for you?
Well, again, you only play 30 SEC games anyway, so you don't play everybody as it is. And so with them coming in, you're still only going to play 30 games. So I think they're right there with the caliber of what our league is. So I still think we're going to have to play 30 really tough games. And now it's just Texas and Oklahoma might be on that schedule too instead of Mississippi State or Arkansas. So it's 16 teams now. It's going to be a 16-team league. It's by far the best baseball league in America. Nothing's even close. And so it's just going to be more great baseball and more opportunities for our fans to see teams. And obviously Texas is coming in this year already. But Oklahoma will be on the agenda now too.
I was about to say, Mark, I don't know how much input the coaches have with that. And
Zero.
Well, they're not here yet.
Whoever writes the checks makes those decisions.
I mean, from everything you've heard, though, when the Sooners and Longhorns do come in, it will remain 30 games. They won't try to add an extra conference weekend?
No, at this point, it's looking like it will stay 30. And the reason for that is because the more games you play within your conference, the RPIs start to come down because you beat up on each other. So 30 seems to be, and as an example of that, the ACC played 12 weekends last year, so they played 36 games, and their RPIs were all lower than normal because they beat up on each other, and so they gave the league more losses. So there's a sweet spot in there, and 30 seems to be that sweet spot.
And Mark, I hesitate kind of knock on wood by saying this, but the last 2 years have just been so strange. We were talking, sitting there in 2020. Mark comes in to preview the start of conference play. Tennessee was coming to town. We did our press conference. Then he walks out, comes right back in, and says, guys, just got a message from the league, and think we're on hold for 3 weeks. And the season gets canceled. Last year, of course, they had a full season, but the stands, you couldn't have a full amount of stands. At least right now, knock wood, everything seems to be back to normal. How much of a boost will that be to get back to a normal baseball season?
It's huge. It's huge for our players. It's huge for our fans. It's huge for coaches to go out there and be able to see the packed stadium. I'm going into year 5, but really it still feels like maybe it's year 3 in terms of recruiting, and we're able to go back on the road finally, and we've been playing in front of empty stadiums for 2 years. It's been crazy. And the 2020 for us was we were 12-4 when the season was canceled, and we had a first-round pitcher in Carmen Majinski on Friday night. So I look back that was going to be a really good team. That was basically last year's team plus Carmen Majinski as a Friday night guy. So I look back at that was kind of a wasted opportunity for us. So last year, obviously, we started moving that thing back in a good direction, hosting the regional, and so. Yeah, it's going into my 5th year, but in some ways it still feels like a third normal year.
Coach Kingston, you made great mention of one of our favorite movies, Moneyball, here. And I remember at your first or second press conference in South Carolina, I asked you about what you thought about analytics, and you seemed to embrace it more at that time maybe than most college baseball coaches did at the time. I wonder how your view of analytics, shifts, etc., has evolved, and how much time do you and your staff spend on that kind of stuff in college baseball right now for the Gamecocks?
Well, sometimes analytics gets a bad name, and then sometimes analytics gets too much credit for things. At the end of the day, what analytics are for us in baseball is just a way to make the best decision. Analytics is the GPS in your car. It helps you get where you want to go. And so for us, analytics is here's this guy's fastball, and not to bore you with too much of the details, but they'll give you spin rates and how much the ball falls between the pitching rubber and the plate. And so there's a million different factors that help give you an idea, why is this guy effective? Why is he not effective? Why is this guy's 92-mile-an-hour fastball harder to hit than this guy's 92-mile-an-hour fastball? And then the analytics side of where do you play your defense, because 78% of the time this guy hits a ground ball on this side of the field, so you shift your defense that way. So at the end of the day, I still believe in gut feel. I still believe that it's a sport played by human beings, and so that's still the biggest part of it. But for us, analytics is just it's information to make good decisions, and you don't rely too much on it, and you don't ignore it. You have to be somewhere in the middle where you combine it with your gut instincts, with your experiences, with knowing your players, because analytics don't know if a guy's having a bad day. Analytics don't know if a guy's just not into it today, or if he turned his ankle yesterday. So there's a lot of factors you have to play, and analytics is just one more piece of that puzzle.
Mark, Jack Mahoney came in last year, was doing real good in that midweek slot. I kind of figured, well, he'll probably take a weekend spot next year, and then he got the dreaded Tommy John diagnosis. But he won't be able to pitch this year, but what will he be able to do?
He'll play some infield for us. Right now, I would say he's in the mix at second base behind Wimmer. Talmadge LeCroy, who I mentioned earlier, who is a catcher for us, but also can play third base, shortstop, and second base very effectively. Mahoney would probably be in that mix at second base if we need it. He won't be cleared for a few more weeks because of the arm, but the doctors have cleared him to throw as a position player, but just not as a pitcher. You may remember last year he was up to 96 miles an hour. and we'd love to have that arm pitching for us this year, along with Jackson Phipps, another one of our prized freshman pitchers from last year who had Tommy John, who will miss the whole year. So getting them back next year will be like 2 more recruits, because you're 2 power arms, that probably 2 guys that would be in our weekend rotation if they were healthy this year. So Mahoney and Phipps, we'll get them back next year. So Phipps can't play a position like Mahoney can, but Mahoney might give us a little bit of help on the infield.
And then for a local guy, at least from G and I's perspective, Ceno from Somerville coming in with a lot of credit, but he had a preseason injury. What's the diagnosis on him maybe coming back and challenging Burgess for the catcher role?
Yeah, if you see him, my guess is it'll probably be more in the DH or first base spot. I would say he's probably running third behind Burgess and Leecroy in terms of being a polished defender. But I think with work, he'll be a really good catcher for us as well. So I think that's a position we have a lot of good depth. But he can really hit. Coach Kaye did a really nice job. He had a really nice high school career in Somerville. And Kaye, I think, took his bat even to the next level this fall. He was one of our better hitters this fall. Strong kid. And runs better than you expect. He runs the bases really well for a kid his size. And so when he's back healthy, and I anticipate it being just a couple more weeks before we can start using him in games, and he'll be right there in that mix, either at the DH spot or potentially when Seitler pitches at first base. So we could leave Belk in the outfield maybe. So he'll be in the mix, no question about it.
Coach Kingston, one of the great things for Gamecock fans right now, and really for people that are interested in baseball all across the Palmetto State, is this is just the golden age of former Gamecocks in the major leagues. You have Whit Merrifield, Christian Walker, and Jackie Bradley as all-star caliber guys. Montgomery and Webb and others are close, and then others about to break through. And kind of a multi-part question, how does that help you in recruiting? And can you kind of take us behind the scenes in how you maintain those relationships and keep those guys close to the program? Do you send them Gamecock gear every year or what? But I know you personally do such a great job of kind of keeping the alumni guys, a part of this thing. I think it's a model for other college baseball programs, but how do you do that?
Well, that's a loaded question. There's like 3 questions within there, that question. So let's start with the alumni. Number one, we are very proud of our alumni here. Some of the names you just mentioned are some of the best names in all of Major League Baseball. And so the great thing for us is I think those guys know we welcome them back with open arms. And whether it's Whit Merrifield and Christian Walker, who actually hit during practice with us recently and took ground balls with our guys. Christian Walker actually still lives here locally, and he comes to our ballpark every day. And so every day he's either lifting or he's hitting in the cages, taking ground balls, and our guys can pick his brain, and he loves that part of it. Whit Merrifield was back a couple weekends ago. Graydon Griner, Grayson, excuse me. Believe it or not, I coached a Graydon Griner at Tulane University. So that's the second name that sounded very similar. Grayson also is lifting in our weight room now, and has been hitting on the field and works out in our cages, and has been catching some of our pro pitchers that are out there, like TJ Shook and those kind of guys. Andrew Peters works out every day, and Danny Lloyd was in the weight room today. So it's really important for us to make sure those guys know that once you're a Gamecock, you're always a Gamecock. That's important to me. The past, the present, and the future, I want to all feel like one big Gamecock baseball family. It's really important, I think, to everybody involved. I had lunch with Drew Meyer from the early 2000s, one of our best players and a major leaguer. Had lunch with him a couple weeks ago. He's going to be doing some TV games. So Kip Bachnight, I texted back and forth with Kip Bachnight earlier today. So I want them to know that I appreciate everything they've done. They're the ones that built this program and made it something we all wanted to be a part of, and that will never change.
You mentioned Whit and Christian coming back to hit. Both those guys left early. There still is a year of eligibility. It's not like they're doing anything.
And there's no Major League Baseball going on.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, have you approched the NCAA about this?
I think there's a very important word called a waiver that we will look into.
Okay, all right. I mean, Whit's only a few hits away from the school, hits record. So
I'd be happy to help him with that.
Just looking at this team overall, Mark, I mean, a lot of excitement, a lot of familiar faces coming back, even though there'll be some newcomers in the lineup. Just what do you say to these guys as they're about to take the field? I mean, are you a rah-rah speech guy? I mean, I know it's one game of 56, but what do you say when you say, Like, this is the start of the season. We've got a lot of talent on this ball club. Just how does those conversations go?
Yeah, today's quote was from Earl Weaver. Every day we do a quote on our practice plan, and today's quote was,
This is a PG audience.
well, I know, I'll do the best I can. The quote was, "This ain't football, we do this every day." And so the point was to our team is, okay, football can be very emotional and over the top, and you lay it all out there on a line on a Saturday night in Williams-Brice, and then you get a week to kind of catch your breath, and then you do it again. Baseball is an everyday sport. And so while you do have some emotion in there, you've got to be a little bit more even keel. You've got to be a little bit more steady, because there's going to be ups and downs. And there's going to be some times the ball just doesn't bounce your way, and you can't go in the tank. And then there's going to be other times when everything goes your way that night. You can't think you have it all figured out. So my message to the guys will be, we're going to play the game the right way. I got on our guys the other day because a guy hit a fly ball to center field and kind of jogged to first. And I said, after practice that day, we all worked on hustling and playing the game the right way. I said, number one, the game has been too good to all of us here to disrespect it that way. And I said, you're going to have 8,000 fans here that are paying their good money to come watch you play, and we are not going to not hustle. So just stuff like that. My message is we're going to play the game the right way. We're going to be very well prepared, give ourselves the best chance for success. We'll go play those 9 or plus innings, and then we'll do it again the next day.
Coach Kingston, one of my favorite things in covering college sports in the Palmetto State for 35 years is to see the reaction of out-of-staters or people that just are amazed at how intense and serious people take the Clemson-South Carolina baseball rivalry and series.
You don't say.
They're absolutely stunned. And I think it's the best college baseball rivalry there is, with no apologies to the state of Mississippi. And I wonder, what were your first impressions of it, and what was it like last year at Christmas time in August or whatever, when you're getting congratulations about the Clemson series and winning a couple of exciting games back to back and taking that series last season?
Yeah, we know how important it is to people. It is in all sports: basketball, football, baseball. It's whenever Clemson and South Carolina are competing, we want to do everything we can to make sure our people get to celebrate and have bragging rights. And so we know that. We don't try to put too much pressure on our players, because if you put too much pressure on them, then you don't play as well. So we want them to know it's important, but we don't want to overwhelm them with that. But to answer your question, I love being a part of it. It's crazy. It's like a super regional weekend when you play. The games mean more, and there's more emotion, and the crowds are louder, and it's really cool when we play on the neutral game, and one side of the park is all garnet and black, and the other side is that ugly color, and you just know it's 50-50. And so it's just a lot of fun. It gives you a lot of juice when you go to that weekend, and it's usually one or two weekends before we start SEC play, so it's great preparation for our guys playing in that kind of environment. So we're really proud to be a part of it.
Mark, two things have really happened through college sports.
I'm not going to get quoted with some of these comments, am I?
No,
Publicly, this is just between friends.
You got
to
say off the record beforehand.
Come on now. This will be the last time I do this if you give me a bad quote.
But, it happened in all college sports. I mean, one's the transfer portal, which you've shown that you already know how to play that. You've gotten some transfers in here. The other, of course, is NIL. I haven't heard a lot about how it's affected really baseball, not just here but all over the country. But have you talked to your guys about NIL? Have any of the guys said, hey, I've got this deal going on?
Andrew Eister signed a deal. I'm not exactly sure with who. Was it with you guys?
I don't think it was.
Okay. Andrew Eister signed a deal that he's not getting rich off it, but just something that will help him. And I think another player is selling some T-shirts, but nothing major, nothing like you're seeing in football where quarterbacks are making $1 million. Hasn't gotten to that point in baseball yet.
I was thinking, with baseball, and sometimes you might only have a guy for a year before he goes pro. I didn't know if it was a different deal, but when it first came around, as we all know, the NCAA pretty much said, this just got passed, deal with it. How did you guys talk about it as a staff, if you did?
Well, they do that to us a lot. They come up with a rule and start enforcing it right away, and we say, well, we need a little time on that one. So with this one, it's just a matter of education. You show your guys what's allowed now, that what didn't used to be allowed, and then you just kind of make the best of it from there.
Coach Kingston, the college football coaches in the SEC do not have to deal with the likes of Coastal Carolina winning a national championship or schools like Stony Brook and Kennesaw State winning regionals. How do you kind of battle the fact that there are so many teams in college baseball that could do well and advance? And then what does a Power 5 conference have as an edge generally? I think most people know, but over, schools from the mid-major leagues.
Well, there's obviously more parity in college baseball than there's ever been. You mentioned some schools that now can get to regionals and super regionals in Omaha. And generally, when you look at football, you don't see that. So I would say the biggest edge you see for Power 5 is just the facilities we have, the opportunities we provide. When a kid comes to the SEC, he's going to play on TV much more often than a non-Power 5. He's going to play in front of bigger crowds and have more media than he would in a non-Power 5. So I'd say the biggest advantage, we are allowed the same amount of scholarships. So whether you go to Appalachian State or Illinois or South Carolina or LSU, we all have 11.7 scholarships. Now, there's another topic about there's other creative ways to fund players on your team, but that's for another day. So I would say the biggest advantage for Power 5s is just that you have history, you have tradition, you have facilities, those kind of things. So that can help you in the recruiting phase.
Mark, it's the SEC. We all know baseball is going to be top to bottom good every single year. To that vein, do you keep up with what the other guys go through their off seasons? Do you scout them before you play them, or do you just say, you know what, it's always going to be a dogfight, and we'll worry about that weekend when it comes?
No, I like to follow how other teams are doing. I like to see what trends are. I like to see where they're recruiting. I like to see where there might be something we can take advantage of. I like to see, who's coming into our state to recruit. I like to see who's going into Georgia, because Georgia's an important state for all sports here at South Carolina. So, yeah, we follow them. Anybody that tells you they're not following other programs is probably lying, or they're not doing enough homework on their opponents. So we track them. Obviously, it's still most important what we do within our program and what we do for ourselves. But you'd want to know what your enemies are doing too.
Coach Kingston, but enough baseball talk. Let's talk food. What's your breakfast routine usually?
Wow. Okay.
Barbara Walters.
Okay. You'll be surprised by this one. I started this about a year and a half ago. I make a shake every morning now, and in this shake, I put carrots, broccoli. Yeah, trust me. I tried to get healthy. I'm gonna put you on this one right here too. All right, so in this I put carrots, banana, blueberries, strawberries, and then some kind of green, whether it's spinach, whether it's broccoli, or whether it's kale. And so that's my breakfast. My breakfast for 35 years was stop at a drive-thru and get a sausage, egg, and cheese biscuit. And that's whether it was Chick-fil-A, whether it was Burger King, whether it was McDonald's. For 30 years, that was my breakfast. And then a year and a half ago, I decided to try to get just a little bit healthier than that.
And then one more thing regarding that, since we're not quoting you and there's no cameras rolling here or anything. What are for just you and your family? What are 2 or 3 or 4 of your favorite Columbia area restaurants?
Ooh, now I don't know if that's a trap question. That is a trap question.
We're not sponsored by anybody yet.
Do we have any restaurant owners in the house tonight? Well, obviously Village Idiot, you have to say, right? I was prompted over here as you're shaking your head. Believe it or not, I go to Groucho's quite a bit on the way home from work. I grab the old STP on the way home. My wife and I go to Cantina quite a bit. That's where we went on Valentine's Day the other night. I'll give you those 3. Marco's Pizza. I like Marco's Pizza too. I don't have real expensive tastes. We'll go to Hall's if I get a gift certificate or something. But really, Marco's, Groucho's. Just the salt of the earth, great places. Okay, I've been there one time. I know Coach Beamer does his show from there. And actually, I should say Home Team Barbecue. I do my show at Home Team Barbecue as well, so that's clearly one of my favorite places too.
And when's that going to start up, Mark? And when
I've done one show already, and we'll do a couple more. I don't know the exact dates, but fairly soon.
Okay. I mean, getting back to the recruiting angle, the past couple of years it's just made things weird with roster restrictions. There were shortened drafts, so guys maybe came back. Are things kind of getting back to what you were used to before the pandemic now to say, okay, here's how many guys we got, and now we're kind of back to a good era of not having to get too many?
It's getting closer, but still everybody got an extra year of eligibility because of COVID. So we're still trying to figure out those numbers, and it's tough because we're back to now they still allow 11.7 and 27 counters, meaning 27 players on your team can be on scholarship. We're back to having 35 players starting next year. So, but yet there's still a lot of kids that have extra years of eligibility. So we're trying to still figure all that stuff out and fit together the new players, who's still in your program that you expected to be gone. It's a complicated puzzle, and so we're still not out of the woods on that yet.
You've been in the game for a long time. G and I have covered the game for a long time. You always hear 11.7. Is it even worth arguing anymore to try to get more, to try to make baseball as fair as the other sports, or is it always going to be locked on that number?
Well, I was talking to Coach Raines the other day. He called me just to wish me good luck, as we start the season, and he said, Coach, I've been fighting that battle. That topic came up, believe it or not, and he said, Coach, I was fighting that battle years and years and years ago. I said, Coach, we're not making any headway on it. They're still giving us 11.7. So I don't know if they'll ever change it. I hope they do. We ask for it every year, and they always tell us no.
Coach Kingston, anybody that just waxes so poetically as you did about the bunting in the postseason and on opening day, I mean, that just touches the heart of any baseball fan. And I mean, so you're obviously
now, just for everybody in the crowd, when we say bunting,
yeah,
there's two kinds of bunting. There's the bunting you do with first and second and nobody out, and there's the bunting that is hanging on the railings in the stadium. That's what we were talking about, that one.
That's right. I mean, it just makes the heart flutter seeing that bunting. But so you're obviously a huge fan of the game, and you have been for a long time. There's been a lot of criticism about baseball. It's not, the younger generation doesn't buy in. They don't have enough patience. There needs to be rule changes, not just for the SEC or for college baseball, but what rule changes would you like to see, or do you want to see zero, or has it already gone too far? Can you just kind of talk about that?
I think we need to start making less changes rather than more changes. The game has been really good since Babe Ruth was playing. So, yeah, to me, it's 90-foot bases. It's 60 feet, 6 inches from home plate. I don't know why we're always trying to change everything. I mean, it's a beautiful game. It's always been a beautiful game. The DH is probably the one argument where I can say they got rid of the pitcher hitting this year in Major League Baseball. So moving forward, you won't see pitchers hit anymore. It'll be the DH in the American League and the National League, and I can live with that because I'd rather watch a good hitter hit than a pitcher trying to flail away for 3 swings. But I think they need to stop messing with the game and just let the game be the game.
Mark, this has been a terrific talk with us. We got about 10 minutes left. I was wondering, does anybody in the audience have a question for Coach Kingston or myself? Just go ahead and shout them out right over here.
The Vandy, I keep reading they've got a little advantage because of the scholarships. And what is that advantage?
Well, you misspoke. It's not a little advantage. Again, I've got to be careful how much I say that gets out in public here. I hope this is a very intimate setting. And take out the orange comment. I don't need their whole fan base. Let's not get no worries. Promise? Promise. Okay, good. So what was the question? Vandy. Every school has different ways to make it affordable for kids outside of their 11.7 baseball. There's some schools have huge endowments, and they call it need-based aid. And so based on how much your family income is, the school can provide X amount of dollars to make it affordable for you to come to school. Some schools have very little of that. Some schools have a lot of that. Vanderbilt just so happens to have a very big endowment, and so they can pay for a lot of assistance for all students at the school. It's not just baseball, it's all the students at their school, and they've done a good job of combining their baseball scholarships with that additional assistance.
To add to that, it's one of those where everybody says, well, the baseball team, I was like, it's actually a school. thing, and they put this in years ago to where they meet with kids who have the qualifications and maybe can't afford the full tuition at Vandy, and you say, we'll let you pay what you can afford to pay. So when that bleeds over into athletics, which it started doing 5 to 8 years ago, that's how you get that situation. It's a school thing. It's not something that the baseball team lobbied for, but they have that rule at their school and they can take advantage of it. But next questions?
Yes, sir.
Do you see the cleanup guy being Marcus Rogers, or you set on somebody for now?
I would say there's 3 key guys for us that will probably hit in the middle of the order. You're looking at Eister, Wimmer, and Seitler. And so those guys probably will be 3, 4, 5 in some order, and it may change. So you could see Wimmer hitting 3, Seitler 4, Eister 5. So you go right, left, right. You could flip flop and move Eister up to the 3 hole, Wimmer in the 4, Seitler in the 5. Those guys will probably be some form of 3, 4, 5. They're our most experienced guys. They're returning. They've all had good careers so far, and they're only getting better. So you're probably looking at some combination involving those 3 guys.
Anybody else? Got a question?
This should be good.
But being a traditionalist, and you're saying you'd like to see the game go from having a lot of changes back to having none because of base paths or swing distance and from the rubber to the plate. Do you ever see the college game going back to a wooden bat?
Probably not. Yeah, I wouldn't mind it. This age group uses wood bats now at the travel ball, on the travel ball circuit. They use it in summer ball. I would not be against us using wood bats. Now, there's 2 factors. Number one, it costs a lot to provide the number of wood bats throughout the course of an entire school year. You're talking about the fall ball, the winter, spring. Those things are very, very expensive. And a kid might go through 10 bats. And those wood bats are expensive. They're $115, $120, $150 sometimes. So as opposed to one aluminum bat can get a kid through a whole year, and that bat might be $300, and it might be truthful. We have a Rawlings contract, so those bats are provided for us. So the amount of impact it would have on a budget for schools all over the country would probably be too big for them to ever go back to use the wood bat.
Yeah, because I saw Seitler last Saturday get hit with a ball off the bat on the pitcher's mound, and I mean, he acted like it was nothing to it. But
He's a tough kid.
yeah, I mean, that was a hard shot.
Yeah,
And,
no doubt.
You know, it could have been above the waist, and it could have been
Yeah.
short.
No question. No question. Yeah, I like the sound of the wood bat better. I like everything about the wood bat better. But again, when the aluminum bat was invented, it for budgets, it really helped budgets all over the country, and we've just never gone back.
Have you heard any tinkering with the baseball since they changed it?
No, I think they like where it is right now. You know, it's in Omaha. We had a 21-14 championship game. I'm trying to remember what year that was. Maybe 99.
Florida State.
Yeah, I don't think we'll ever have that again. But then, you know, in the 2009, 10, 11 area, actually, when they deadened the bats and the balls, you couldn't hit a home run in TD Ameritrade. So I think we have a good balance right now, and I think they're very happy with what the balance is.
Anybody else?
Transfer portal. Are you concerned about you said you had 4 or 5 kids that were battling for positions and they don't get to play the first 3 weeks? Do they leave?
Well, you hope not, you know, but it is a reality. I mean, it's a reality for everybody in the country now, and it's a concern of every coach in the country. When you see kids go to the transfer portal, 90% of the time, whether it's our program or anybody else's, it's a playing time issue. And so if you have a shortstop that's really good and young, you may have a backup shortstop that decides he wants to go get playing time elsewhere, or left field, or pitcher, or catcher. It's a reality. And now that they've opened that transfer portal back up, you see it in football. I mean, Oklahoma lost all their quarterbacks. You know, one to us, luckily, that we're all very excited about. One to Southern Cal. It's a reality. It really is. And so, I think it's important not to overreact when guys leave your program, because it just means you have good players in your program that these kids don't think they're going to be able to beat out. But it also provides the opportunity to maybe grab a Kevin Madden or a Hogan or a Belk, that can help your program. So the challenge for us now is to try to keep those freshmen focused on the big picture. You might not get the playing time you want this year, but it's coming. Eister's leaving and Seitler's leaving and all that, so it opens up. And so you just have to try to walk that fine line of, you want to win enough games now that you need to win, but also balance that with, you got to keep your freshmen and young guys happy enough so they don't want to leave. It's a complicated puzzle. That's a really good question, but it's real. It really is. So you may see times where guys playing are like, that's probably why he's playing, because you don't want him to feel like he's buried on the bench and has no hope.
Well, Coach, for David Kloniger and myself and the entire Post and Courier team, we'd really like to thank you for this. And thank you guys for coming out. And another reminder, if you're interested in the outstanding value that is Gamecock Now by David Kloniger, there's some information there on the chairs. And thanks again for coming out.
Great to see you guys. Appreciate you. Go Cox. It's over already? We just got started.